Hello, and welcome to Sports by Compian. My name, of course, is Stephen Compian, and I'm joined here by my powerful, beautiful co-host wearing his tour jersey, Dan Motherfucking Gall in the house! What's going on, Dan? How are you?
Fantastic, buddy. And, we're about to talk about one of my favorite players in football history. So this is a great time.
No way, Dan. Sainsies. This man right here is one of the gentlemen responsible for me being a Buccaneers fan. Back in 2002, when I was a wee lad, Dan, about 9 or 8, one of those two, the Buccaneers had just won the Super Bowl, and I was pretty clueless about. I wasn't really paying much attention to the NFL in general. I remember having to ask somebody, just some random dude. I was like, "Who won the Super Bowl?" And they're like, "The Buccaneers." So I'm like, "They sound cool," and they're not the Cowboys. So that's where young Steven decided, you know what? I'm gonna become a Buccaneers fan. And it was thanks to guys like John Lynch that literally brought this team out of the abyss. Dude, when he was drafted to this team, they were still wearing the creamsicle jerseys. And Dan, they were not a good football team. I don't know if you knew this about them in their creamsicle jersey days, but they were not a
Oh,
good football team.
yeah, no, they were god awful. I guess funny story for you. I actually was also a Buccaneers fan. I am a Packers fan. My dad, from the Colts left Baltimore, became a Buccaneers fan.
You know what? I think
So
you
he
have
has,
told me this.
yeah, he has creamsicle stuff upstairs.
Ah, good man. Good man. But yeah, so in the 90s, though, Dan, they started to draft a couple players. This guy was one of them. And we're going to go into his full career here. But yes, around the 93, 90s area in general, they started to draft guys like Warren Sapp, Derek Brooks, Michael Allstott. Next thing you know, these creamsicle jersey team that everyone had just beaten up on for many, many years suddenly had some studs on it, Dan. And as their defensive coordinator, known as the mighty Tony Dungy, was elevated from defensive coordinator to full-on head coach in the late 90s, this team started to look really good. This team started to go to the playoffs. They started to go deep in there. They started to play against Philadelphia every year in the NFC Championship and lose. But that was what they were doing. They were going to the championship. They were doing big things. And it all started with strong, strong defense. This team had a ridiculous defense, which is part of the reason I bought in. It all comes down to that secondary, man. You got to be able to stop the pass. Mr. John Lynch was a huge part of that. Now there was guys like Randy Barber, who was still a rookie when they won that Super Bowl. So this is probably one of the more prevalent guys in that famous Buccaneer secondary that absolutely destroyed the Raiders. Even though the Raider fans will cry and say, "Oh, John, what's his name? John Gruden had our playbook." Hey guys, if you didn't change your playbook after a whole year,
That's on you.
it may or may not be on you. Just gonna say it. But anyway, let's hop into the career of this guy. Dan, did this guy almost play baseball? What a silly move for him.
Yeah, he went to Stanford on a football scholarship, who was also a baseball standout, got drafted by the Miami Marlins, the then Florida Marlins, now Miami Marlins, and was a pitcher for them through their first pitching organization. His jerseys are actually in the Hall of Fame.
Wait, what? Hold
this,
on. He threw their first pitch as an organization?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, he was, I believe, second round pick.
Wow.
And, he was talking about it, that he threw the first pitch, and then, immediately the Hall of Fame committee came out, took the baseball, took his jersey, took his hat. They had to, bring him a whole new jersey to wear for the game because it got shipped off to Cooperstown. So it's there for the legacy for that. Who knows what could have been. I do have his rookie card from the Marlins signed, so that's what they're going to have. But Bill Walsh, the former 49ers head coach, the legendary coach out there, actually saved him, and they're coming back to football.
Yeah, so Bill Walsh was hired on as Stanford's new head coach. So is this after his legendary run with the 49ers? He's like, let me go down to college and I'll just do this?
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Huh. He was like, all right, let me take a more relaxing job, and he happens to see an absolute stud who had transitioned from quarterback to safety because he just wanted to get on the field. And he's like, dude, you're the best guy I saw out there. And so for a young John Lynch, I'm sure he knew who Bill Walsh was at that point. And he's like, wow, okay, if this guy thinks I can do it, maybe I should stick to football.
Yeah, he actually thought his friends were playing a prank on him when Bill Walsh called him because he couldn't believe that it was actually him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, it looks like he had a really good senior year. 76 tackles, 4 interceptions, earned himself a third-round selection by the mighty Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Dan, you know what? It was a year after a stud named Stephen Compton was born. This guy had his rookie year. Isn't that nice? So actually, his rookie year, he got in there a little bit. You know, ended up with a total of 10 combined tackles, 2 forced fumbles, though not bad at all for a rookie start. He was once again a backup his second year. You know, got about 16 combined tackles, no starts, but he did play in all 16 games. He looked in the third year he was competing for a starting position, and he ended up being back up there as well. So it looks like he did a little bit of on and off. He did have 2 interceptions against Warren Moon that year, so good for him. And look at the scores back then, man, like 20-17, 19-16, like you know, it's kind of funny. Dan, we don't see those kind of scores anymore.
We don't.
No, it is a different league now. Anyway, the '96 season comes around, and Tony Dungy becomes the head coach. So actually, he was a Vikings defensive coordinator at the time. But anyway, he comes over as the official, you know, coach there. John Lynch went into a competition against Todd Scott, which he actually lost. But then, you know, Todd ends up tearing his Achilles tendon, which is fucking brutal. And he was out for the whole year, so Lynch gets the start for the rest of the year, and pretty much never looked back. Ended up having 100 total combined tackles, 3 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, and a sack. He had that first sack against Ken Graham, a 5-year loss. And look at this win, 13-9, Dad. You gotta love that one. Another road loss, 13-7. And a victory, 13-7 as well, Dad. All in 1 year. Can you believe this? That is some Tony Dungy football right there, Dad. We are going to play a suffocating defense, and Brad Johnson may or may not score a touchdown for us today.
I mean, their defense, though, well, yes, Tony Dungy was a large part of it. Monty Kiffin developed what became the Tampa 2.
Yep.
So, he was just such the brainchild behind that. And, you know, I think that's what, you know, when they brought in pieces like Lynch, Brooks, Stapp, eventually Simeon Rice, Rondé Barber.
I forgot about Simeon Rice and Rondé Barber.
Anthony McFarland, like those guys, really set up a
Hardy Nicholson,
a program for them. Yeah.
Yeah, Hardy Nicholson was actually there like in the '90s as well. He was also a critical guy. So it's kind of funny how the Buccaneers do this. They like to be a terrible, terrible team. Then they start to draft some pieces on defense, and then they suddenly bring in usually a free agent quarterback. Obviously, Tom Brady a little better than Brad Johnson, but you see the similarities here, Dan, because obviously they're playing games like this. They're like, dude, if we score 14 points, we can win a lot of games here. So let's get somebody in here who can at least do that for us. And like, if you're scoring 7 points in a game, Dan, your quarterback's probably throwing 2 to 3 interceptions. If I had to guess, when you say, is that accurate? Or he's definitely throwing for under 300 yards.
Yeah, that just really can't keep your offense going, you know, whether it's the running game or the passing game.
Either one. Yeah, it doesn't sound like either one.
They ain't getting together.
It's like you're like, all side, up the middle. All right, shit. Well, that went okay. Offside up the middle again. Oh, damn, they were expecting it this time.
Yeah. Yeah, become too predictable.
They also had Warren Dunn during that time, so they had a little bit of something to mix it around with. But, yeah, tough times for that offense. Anyway, the '97 season comes around.
I think Trent Dilfer was still their quarterback then.
I believe so. That checks out because I think they only got Brad Johnson like in the,
for
like
like 3 years.
yeah, exactly.
I think it was
Um,
like 01 to 04 or something like that.
that would probably make sense. That totally checks out. But anyway, they finally paid Lynch in '97. And then like, all right, dude, you're not to compete against the starter anymore. No worries, you got this. Although he did start to get fines for like hitting people. Always been an aggressive player. Obviously, one of the reasons that people liked him. And dude, think about how many fines he would get if he was playing nowadays.
Well, so the funny part is in '96 when they drafted Mike Allstott, they actually had a rule that the two of them could not hit each other in practice because the first time it had ever happened, that Allstott went around the edge, Lynch came around the edge, and they just met in the gap and just knocked each other. But apparently, like neither one of them moved, but it just sounded like a gunshot apparently, and they were like, whatever noise that noise can never happen again. So,
You guys are gonna
so
kill
because
each other. No more of this.
they were like, you guys are gonna kill each other, you guys are gonna injure each other. So the rule was if they ever met in the gap like that, the play was automatically dead
Checks
on the
out.
spot. I'm like,
Anyway,
that is hysterical.
that is really funny that you have to make an actual rule. Like, you two boys, too wild, no more of this.
Yeah,
The '97 season ended in a divisional round loss to the Green Bay Packers. It started to become a trend, unfortunately, for Tony Dungy to be losing out there in the playoffs. Dan.
yeah,
Um,
tough loss to the Rams eventually.
so '98 started up. Oh, look at this! Ronde Barber in town. I think this is the year they drafted Ronde Barber.
Yeah,
So yeah.
97 I think was his first year.
Oh, okay. All right. Either way, we'll have to cover future on a future NFL studs. Mr. Ronde Barber himself, arguably the better barber.
Yeah,
Well, probably for sure. Actually, played a lot longer. Anyway, so yeah, '98. What did they do? Did they make the playoffs? Doesn't look like it. They don't really talk about what their record was anyway. But they did also have. Look at these wins, dude. 20-3. They gave up 3 points. It's 16-3. Another 3-point game. That's like 6 points in 2 games. It's like what I do in Madden sometimes. It's crazy.
they missed it with an 8-8 record.
What's that?
So they missed the playoffs with an 8-8 record.
Sad. It wasn't the defense's fault, man. Shit. Anyway, Lynch returns as a starter in '99 alongside Damian Robinson. He's starting next to a different safety like every single season. He's like Charles last season. I don't think they mentioned who he
And
had. No, yeah, he did. Marvin Jones. So it's like a
I mean, it
different
was
safety every single year
it was a rotating there for a while for sure.
until they
I
got
think
Dexter Jackson came in eventually, right?
no, I was gonna say Dexter Jackson. I think was probably one of his more consistent partners out on the end there.
Yeah. Oh, look at this. He actually intercepted then Redskins quarterback Brad Johnson in a 14-13 victory.
2 years before he joined them.
Oh, dude. And then they lost the game 11-6. Like, what the fuck is going on offense, man? Jesus.
Yeah,
But that's like '90s, early 2000s football, though. It just was like, ground and pound and like hopefully your quarterback can throw
the
like a 20-yard
defense.
pass every once in a blue moon.
Yeah,
Some good old defense, man. Kind of miss it a little bit, honestly. But not that I saw much of it, but either way. So yeah, the Buccaneers went ahead and paid him like a real boy now, 24 million. Isn't it crazy these contracts back in the day, dude? Like 24 million. That's not much
yeah. I
nowadays.
mean, especially what they're making now.
I hope these guys invested their money correctly, because yeah, not quite as much as
Uh,
what they're making now.
I'm gonna give you a spoiler. That answer is no.
Lynch.
No, I'm just saying in whole.
In a
A lot of
whole,
these
oh,
players didn't.
absolutely, absolutely. No, you're right, for sure. That doesn't surprise me. But yeah, anyway, it looks like he had 94 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 1 sack. He played all 16 games of the 2000 season, and now, Dan, they are starting to ramp up for what is known as the Super Bowl run. Lynch, Tony Dungy's last go at it was the 2021 season. Unfortunately for him, they once again fell short. I believe this was against the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game. And, maybe a questionable decision by ownership to be like, you know what, fuck it, get Dungy out of here. He just does not understand how to score points on offense. Let's get an offensive mind in here. Dun, 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 dun. John Gruden joins the team. It brings apparently the Raiders playbook with them. That the Raiders were like, hey, did that guy take the playbook? Yeah, he did. All right, no worries. We don't need to change it. We're just gonna run it, and let them stop us, dude.
Well, I think one of the more interesting things about the John Gruden acquisition is they didn't sign him. They traded for him.
Yeah, they traded like a lot of capital for him.
Yeah, it was a lot of first round picks and second round picks, along with some cash.
Which is probably why we won the Super Bowl and then proceeded to suck like a lot after that.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that was the last time a coach was traded prior to the Sean Payton one that we just saw this offseason.
Wow.
So, like, it's not a common thing.
Not at all. That's interesting. But yeah, so John Gruden comes on. Obviously, they get Brad Johnson, whether it was last year or this year. Dexter Jackson's finally locked in alongside John Lynch, so they got some continuity there. Mike Tomlin's their defensive backs coach. Like, dude, this team was loaded. I forgot about Brian Kelly. Good old Brian Kelly. Yeah, that coaching staff all are like head coaches or have had a run at being a head coach. Except for Monty Kiffin, who just probably doesn't want to do that kind of stuff. Some guys
no, but his son's had a good run as a college head coach.
Yeah, right. Where is he? Is that
I think he's still at Ole Miss.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's not Ole Miss. I know that coach over there. It's not him.
Oh wait, didn't he go to Well, I know he was at FAU for a while.
Maybe it is. I forget who it is. Anyway,
he's
maybe, is it Texas Tech?
No. I just looked it up. He's currently at Ole Miss.
Oh, okay. All right, I was wrong then. Never mind. Well, either way, yeah, you know what? I'm thinking of the fucking Auburn coach. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. Anyway.
Gotcha.
So they went against good old Philadelphia during the season, and they lost 20-10. Sapp has a legendary, well, like in this one DVD I have, Sapp will talks about being all frustrated sitting in the van and Gruden looking back at him like, I got them, Sapp. I understand them now. And he wasn't bullshitting, because sure enough that season, NFC divisional round, was it? No, that was San Francisco they beat in the divisional round, and they fucking mauled in the divisional round. But
and it was the NFC Championship.
NFC Championship game, famous for Buccaneers fans everywhere, is seeing that Ronnie Barber hop in front of that pass to take it back to the house and ultimately seal that victory for them. To which they went on and just absolutely destroyed the fuck out of the Raiders in the Super Bowl. Raiders fans will cry about it, but cry me a river, boys, because the Buccaneers just they took apart Rich Gannon and that offense in general. Which that offense didn't it have Jerry Rice on that team?
Yeah, Jerry Rice and Tim Brownlee in the wide receiving core.
Yeah, oh man, that's
so I mean it was no sneeze of a offense for sure.
But you know what's interesting is we've seen that like time and time again when it gets to the Super Bowl. Like it's like the best offense shows up and like it plays the best defense, and usually the best defense mauls them. Like what's the Broncos versus Seattle? That was an absolute mauling. We got this one. We got what else we got? Give me one more example, Dan.
Oof. All right, I can't remember the other one in Battle of the Number Ones.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is I'm trying to remember which ones are the Battle of the One. I had one on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, it's gone now. So yeah, 2002, they finally win the Super Bowl. Brad Johnson makes less mistakes, lets the defense do their thing. You know what's interesting about Lynch is that he played a couple more years for the Buccaneers, obviously, and then he moved on to the Denver Broncos. I remember him being really good with the Broncos. Like, he was still scary over there.
Yeah, he really anchored that defense in Denver. They tried to make runs. I know they got bounced by the Steelers. in that time span as well. But yeah, I mean, he gave Denver a good spark when they needed it.
Was the Denver defense that went against Carolina, was that kind of the number one versus number one maybe? Because I do
Yeah,
remember that being like the defense just took over that game.
yeah,
Ultimately, what we're trying to say is, well, I was thinking of the Ravens versus the Giants back in 2000, because that defense just absolutely smothered the Giants, who I imagine had a pretty good offense if you made all this Super Bowl, but not good enough for Ray Lewis and company. Anyway, so yes, Lynch was an absolute anchor even in his later years. I didn't even know he had played for the Patriots in his final year.
yeah. He didn't make it out of preseason.
Oh, yeah, it looks like he got released. Hmm,
Yeah,
that's interesting. But anyway, he did announce his retirement after that. He's like, fuck it, dude. If these young kids are going to take my shit, I'm out. So, following that, though, Dan, most guys wander off and live their life. Not Mr. Lynch. He went into broadcasting, which he did a pretty good job of. But then you know what? The 49ers were like, dude, come over here, run our team for us, which is kind of ballsy. It's like, he doesn't have like that much experience. It's kind of interesting that the 49ers were like, dude, just get in here and run the show. We think you're smart enough to do it. And he was like, all right. So dude hops in there and honestly has created a pretty damn good team with the 49ers right now. Like they have been playoff consistent, they've been Super Bowl consistent, and he's doing it with like there's not like a consistent quarterback over there. That's why everyone kind of discounts them every year. They're like, 49ers, but who do they got at quarterback? What's going on? You know what I mean? And then every year they're just kind of like they got like four different quarterbacks to play for them, and they still make the playoffs and like it's crazy.
yeah, but their defenses are phenomenal.
Yeah, their defenses are always good, which isn't surprising with Lynch running the show.
Yeah,
They got Fred Warner over there, arguably the best linebacker in the league. That secondary is getting better every year. They got some fucking studs in that secondary right now. It's scary. In general, that whole fucking 49ers team is scary. Nick Bosa up the front there, like, yeah, he's drafted really well for them. And he's been trading and getting, like, isn't he pulled off that trade with Chicago, right?
yeah.
Yeah, where they traded up to draft Mitchell Trubisky, and he got like multiple picks out of that. Solomon Thomas, who went on to be a decent NFL player, but like ultimately, like he's made a couple big deals in the first round. I remember about Lynch. He's not afraid to pull the trigger on stuff.
Not at all.
No, but I think he's going to be a real good general manager. But yeah, just ultimately one of the guys that got me into the Buccaneers, football in general. Like, look at the smile yet this guy has on his face here at this Pro Bowl picture. Like, the guy plays the game the right way. Always just flying around the field, look cool as hell out there. He ultimately played in 224 regular season games, 26 interceptions, returned for 204 yards, 13 sacks, more than 1,000 tackles. Wow, and 90 or more tackles in a season 9 times. Pretty good. But anyway, that is the career of John Lynch. Now, before we wander off here, did you have any final words about our boy John?
Yeah, funny story. So in the '97 season, he was actually playing against his brother-in-law, who was a tight end for the Bears, and they were playing each other around Thanksgiving time of year, and he caught a pass over the middle, and well, trying to put anything over the middle against John Lynch was never a good idea. And I guess he didn't have a family discount for him and laid him out. He actually almost knocked him out because he hit him so hard. And he said in an interview that Thanksgiving dinner was a little awkward.
That would be pretty funny. Your sister's just sitting there across the dinner table from you, like, what the fuck, dude? And you're like, I bet it's what I do.
Well, I mean, you have to imagine like the families are at the game in a box together.
Yeah, of course.
And they just watch them just crash into each other. And
oh my gosh.
Only one of them gets back up.
Yeah, I know. The other one's just like, I'm gonna stay here for a little while, think about my life and the things that have happened. John Lynch just got involved.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, you find people at Sports by Compy, and I hope you've enjoyed this edition of NFL studs. John Lynch, Sports by Compian.